Hey guys, so I'm just making some build notes for my new PilotRC 39-inch edge. So what I've done is you can see here that I've already put the wing in. Now, this is a bit of a tight fit to get in. Don't frighten yourself too much. It does require a little bit of thing. I went a little bit diagonal to get it in, but where you want to be, let me just kind of see if we can get a bit of a clearer shot here of the light. So you want to have a little bit of overhang here and a little bit of overhang here, so that'll be all right. The other thing that you want to do is to make sure, if I can just actually, let me just go landscape here. So you want to make sure that you can go either way, that and that length is equal. The other thing that I also did was I took my trusty tape measure, and my trusty tape measure, and I measured from here to that reference there where my finger is, and I measured from here to that reference to make sure that it's all square. Now, what I'm going to do in terms of securing the wing, I was going to use UHU pour, but you can see that here for the top, using UHU pour would be pretty easy, but you can see in terms of the bottom, trying to use that would be a really tough fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use thin CA to secure it in place. And I'll put a bead of medium CA in there, and I'll use a bit of UHU pour to fill in the blanks. All right, well that covers the wing installation. So guys, back to part two of the PilotRC 39-inch edge build. So I'm at the point now where I'm getting ready to put the ailerons, as you can see there, onto the wings, and I'm about to install the stab. So a couple of things, and there's potentially some traps here for young players. So we're going to get into this, but you can see here you've got to install the control horn for the elevator first. That's absolutely critical, because what you've got to do is that you're going to have to install that in here, and we're going to get to that really briefly. But before we do that, and this could be a real trap for young players, you make sure you do that here, so we're on the right hand side of the plane, which means that when you install this control horn onto the rudder, you're going to have to install it. Sorry, you're going to have to install it on this side, on the left-hand side. The other thing too is I've installed this with medium CA, but I almost reckon that UHU pour could almost be, or foam tack could be a better fit. But anyway, okay, well that will do it for part 1.5 of the video. Let me get all this installed, and we'll get to part 2A. There's been part 2A. We're going to get to part 2B, where we install the stab. So it goes back to part 2B of the video. Sorry, I just had to make a quick stop there. Just a quick trap for young players. Just make sure that when you're installing the control horn for the elevator, just double check that it's level. I kind of had to do a little bit of massaging on that. But anyway, that was a bit of a food bath. Now, here's the fun bit. So this has to go in first. If this does not go in first, you're not going to be able to put the horizontal stabilizer. Now, the way you do it is that you pretty much, as you can see, I'm putting it like this and like this. Okay, now that we've got that in, what you've got to do is, kind of maneuver this up a little bit. So stand by. Sorry, I'm going to pop this over here. Hopefully you guys have got a good field of view as to what is going on. Okay, stay. So what you got to do is you got to put it in like this. Now, when you put it in like this, you virtually have almost got to have it at this point like there. It's a little bit of an interference fit, but you can pretty much just jiggle it all the way through. So let me just demo that. So I'll go like that, he's in, go like that, get it out of harm's way, and you're all good. So that is probably the bit where, if you're not careful, you can have traps for young players. What you'll then do is you'll take the horizontal stab, the horizontal stab, pop that in, and do your usual bits in terms of making sure that it's aligned here and here, and secure that with FinCA. I'm going to secure that with FinCA, just to tack into place, but I'll also grab some UHU pour to fill it around there anyway, just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then what you'll do is you'll pop those in, pop these in, and yeah, that's basically your rudder and elevator fit all done. Okay, we'll catch you in part 3. Hey guys, so just a quick update on the servo install. So when you open up the PY83H servos, it comes with a bunch of screws. These are the ones with my right next door to my finger. That's the ones that you're going to have to install on the servo to put it on the plane. So that's going to be really important to keep in mind, otherwise it'll turn to custard very, very quickly. You've got a smaller one that will, and I'll zoom in on this one, that will already put it in. I've already put that in just as a safety. So yeah, just wanted to give you the heads up about that. So guys, back to the 39-inch edge build video. So at the point where I'm putting the undercarriage together, and look, it's a little messy, but it's not the end of the world. So the key is that you've got these little collets down here. I'll just zoom in on those so you can see it. So that's going to hold the wheel in place with this little bugger quite here. So here you can see that this is going to fit in to that, and it takes a little bit of bugger. It takes a little bit of stuffing around, but once it's actually in, it's relatively straightforward. Then you just secure it with an Allen key. And what I'm going to do here with these bits and pieces is just use a bit of foam, a little bit of either foam tack or UHU pour, just to put it in, and I'll flood that in as well. Now, with the tail wheel, you can see here, I was kind of a little bit of a loss as to how to put it all together. But then when I kind of stopped having a brain fart, I figured out, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So you're going to have to put this in, you're going to have to put this little fit, you drill a little hole, fit that in to the fuselage, and either use medium CA or fin CA. Now, one trap for young players I do want to mention is just gluing that tail. I said in my last video that I would use fin CA to put it in. That was a complete disaster. What I found worked really well was to use medium CA, because I think it's not quite the really tight fit that you have on the balsa planes. But anyway, a bit of medium CA sorted that out. All right, guys, that will do it, and for this bit of the build video, and we'll catch you in the next bit. Hey guys, so as you can see, the undercarriage is on and we're all good. So just a couple of things. I'll start from the tail wheel. So this is all pretty straightforward in terms of how it turned up. Now, see where my finger is? Grab a 1.5mm drill bit and just drill a hole in there, or whatever the imperial equivalent is. Then you can use a bit of foam tack or UHU pour, straight in, straight out. If you're using UHU pour, wait for about 5 minutes, put it back in, you're good to go. Also too, you've got a little locking nut there as well. That's actually, that's relatively straightforward to do. Now, going back to the main undercarriage, it was actually really easy. I just used UHU pour. It slotted in there like a glove, and it was awesome. Now, as you can see, I've kind of added this. Now, you'll see here that I've added some hinge tape. Now, that was more just a thing just to make sure there weren't any gaps. Now, but I will say this, make sure that particularly for this, you've got a bit of timber there, make sure whether you're using UHU pour or foam tack, just to make sure there's a really good bond there. Now I got a modeling knife and really just worked it in there just to make sure it was all right. And yeah, ultimately that was fine. I did the same thing. And now you can see that's all pretty good. That's, yeah, she ain't going anywhere. So that's really, really cool. I actually reckon that particularly for the undercarriage, you might actually be a lot better off with foam tack you can get from Twisted Hobbies. But anyway, that's by the by. All right, that covers the undercarriage install, and we'll catch you in the next installment of the build. Hey guys, back to the edge. So as you can see, she's on her haunches, and that bit of the build went really well. So I'm at the point now where I'm about to install the servo. So I've bounded my transmitter to the receiver, and I've got all the servos here. I'll go for those in a minute. So what I've done here, let me zoom in. So these are the Pilot what we zoom in on that? PY83AH. So I think they're like 7 or 8 centimeter servos. But what they've done is they come with a little, as you can see here, they come with a little bit of a plastic extender, which is an absolute lifesaver. So what I've done is I've CA'd them on. Now, I've got to admit, I'm a little nervous right now because usually when I've done these, say for my 48-inch extreme flight builds, you've got a little bit of a locking bolt that goes in there. I haven't done that time around because I think if I was to throw a bolt in there, it would just completely destroy the servo horn. But the good news is that you can see here, there's actually quite a bit of length there, which is awesome. And also too, it'll go in quite nicely to the supplied servo arms. Tony or Ryu, if you're tuning into this, guys, those PW21AH servos you guys do for the 60-inch, 67-inch planes, they're bloody awesome. But one of the nice things is obviously having that metal arm there. And I got to admit, I think given that these servos and this plane could potentially be a real game changer, I reckon you should probably do some servo arms for that. It's one less thing to worry about in the build. Okay, so, and one of the nice things is that I already test fitted the servos and they fit like a glove. So yeah, so anyway, just wanted to give you that bit of the build and we'll take it from there. Hey guys, so here we are at the finishing line. So it's had about 8 flights so far. So let me walk you through a couple of things to finish off the build. First things first, with the spinner, as you can see, the cowl here, does tend to flex around a little bit. It's not like the fiberglass cowl that you'll see on the balsa planes. So because of that, you've got to give yourself about 2 to 3 mil gap there. You do that, you're as good as, if you do that, you're as good as gold. Now, the other thing that I did, and I had a feeling that when I did this, I was going to have to do it anyway. What I did with all of the servo mounts. Now, the servos here are the PY03AH servos, so I just want to correct that. One of the things that you can see that I've done here is I've done 2 things. You'll see that I've added a bit of 1 mil ply that's about 13 mil by 6 mil, and that makes sure that the servo is really, really tight against there. The other thing I did was I made sure it was all mounted with 2 by 8 millimeter self-tappers. Now, solid as a rock, not gonna move. Because I actually I was about to take it out for its 5th flight, and all of a sudden I think, God, the aileron's a bit sloppy here, and turned out that it had actually come loose. So I have actually now done that for all 4 servos, so now solid as a rock, not gonna move. The only other thing that I would say, just to conclude the build video, just on the stab, if I could do my build over again, what I would do for the stab is I'd add another layer of carbon to it, just to make sure that it's really nice and stiff. Don't get me wrong, it's actually pretty good as is. It's still just a little bit too much squish for my liking, and I'll see how that goes. But if I was to do this build again, that's what I would do. Anyway, guys, that will do it for the build video. I'll do another video about flight characteristics and the powertrain options I've been playing with. But yeah, but honestly, I really can't complain too much. It was a really straightforward build. It's just, yeah, but Ryo and Tony, if you're tuning in on this, guys, yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit of a manual, more just as a security thing than anything else. All right, guys, that'll do it. Catch you in the next one. Bye.